We all understand what different emotions are, and we have all experienced happiness or sadness or anger or fear. Because emotions are so fundamentally a part of our experience as humans, it is easy to think that they are relatively simple or basic psychological phenomena. But in actuality, emotions are really quite complex, and they involve an interesting interaction between our body and our brain. One component of emotions is the physical one. When we feel an emotion, we often literally feel it. When we are happy or in love, we feel warm and gooey and good inside. And when we are scared or angry, we often experience physical arousal that is not so pleasant, like nausea or elevated heart rate. Another component of emotion is the mental or cognitive component. This is what we are consciously and unconsciously thinking in relation to whatever it is that is eliciting the emotional response. To a certain extent, this is innate, something we are born with, but a large part of this is learnt and built up via our experiences over time. Importantly, these two factors can influence each other, and they both work together to induce an emotional response, which in turn can influence how we behave in a given situation. It is interesting to note that the line between different emotional states is not always clear-cut. For example, emotions such as fear, anger and exhilaration all share common physical manifestations, such as increased heart rate and sweating, and a tensing of muscles. This arousal is what we call a fight or flight response, and is due to the body getting geared up for immediate action. Whether or not we are getting ready to fight or getting ready to flee is very much due to the cognitive component of the emotion. I like Henry's speech in Act 3, Scene 1, the once more onto the breach speech, because it shows how a good leader can use a rousing speech to manipulate the emotions of their followers. Your heart is racing, your palms are sweaty, and you feel sick to the stomach. If Henry says, "That's it, boys, we're outnumbered and sure to be beaten," then you would probably be fleeing, not fighting. Instead, he talks about these physical reactions as a precursor to fighting, stiffening the sinews, conjuring up the blood, setting the teeth and stretching the nostrils wide. It is as if he is saying, you are not feeling this because you are scared, you are feeling like this because you are getting ready to fight. As a result, he is able to manipulate the emotions of his followers. We can contrast this with Henry's speech to the townsfolk of Harfleur in Act 3, Scene 3. In this case, he is manipulating expectation in the other direction. He describes all the terrible things that will happen if they don't capitulate. Again, we can imagine the townsfolk experiencing extreme physical arousal as they stand on the walls looking down on their besiegers. But in this case, Henry is able to manipulate their mental representation into a fear response rather than a fight response. He's a clever fellow, that Henry.